To risk and reward, I'm Elizabeth McDonald in for Deirdre Bolton. First, to the judges on the Ninth Circuit deciding the fate of Trump's immigration suspension. Two appointed by Carter and Obama and one by George W. In a court filing yesterday, the Trump administration arguing, quote, the president has the express statutory authority to suspend entry of any class of aliens to protect the national interests, to permit an orderly review and revision of screening procedures to ensure that adequate standards are in place to protect against terrorist attacks. This as a new video surfaced showing the Seattle judge's reasons for blocking President Trump's suspension. The judge arguing that the people coming in from those 7 countries do not pose a threat. Here's the full exchange.
How many arrests have there been of foreign nationals for those 7 countries since 9/11?
Your Honor, I don't have that information.
Let me tell you, the answer to that is none, as best I can tell. So, I mean, you know, you're here arguing on behalf of someone that says we have to protect the United States from these individuals coming from these countries, and there's no support for that.
But a fact check by AP shows the judge is wrong. For example, an Iraqi refugee and ISIS sympathizer arrested last January, admitting to plotting 2 separate bomb attacks at 2 Houston, Texas malls. Last fall, 2 radicalized Somali refugees carried out chillingly similar attacks. One knifed 9 people in a crowded Minnesota mall. The other attacked 11 with a knife and then a car at Ohio State University. Both were shot and killed by law enforcement. White House senior advisor Kellyanne Conway commented on the AP's fact check this morning.
It's such an important thing for everybody to note because the judge from the bench had asked the attorney how many people have actually been arrested under this type of order, and she said, I don't know, and he said, I'll tell you 0, and that's just not true.
President Trump today blasting the Seattle judge for putting the country in danger.
I actually can't believe that we're having to fight to protect the security in a court system, to protect the security of our nation. I can't even believe it. And a lot of people agree with us, believe me. But they want to see our borders secure and our country secure. And they want to see people that can love our country come in, not people that are looking to destroy our country.
Ninth Circuit is expected to rule quickly after their conference call. It's expected at 6 p.m. Eastern Time. Let's take this to American Islamic Forum for Democracy. Dr. Zuhdi Jasser joins me now. I mean, Doctor, look, there's no rational, reasonable person who would paint all residents of a country as bad. But what do you think of the Seattle judge incorrectly saying that there were no arrests of nationals from the targeted countries?
Well, Liz, this is what happens when a judge starts getting into Homeland Security and rationale on things that he's just not knowledgeable in. I mean, bottom line is if anything, why isn't Saudi Arabia included? Why isn't Pakistan? I mean, those are other questions. But the 7 countries were labeled by the Obama administration as being not only terror hotspots, but governments that we can't rely on as far as background checks, governments that are almost chaotic because of Yemen, because of Libya, Iraq. I mean, the attacks you listed, the mall attack in Minnesota was a Somali immigrant. The Columbus attack was a Somali native whose family, by the way, came through Pakistan. And the Texas plot that was broken up. So there are examples, but just because there aren't that many doesn't mean that we're not fighting a global jihad. Yeah. Doesn't mean that this isn't the first step in a long journey where it seems like the media now went from 8 years of any criticism was racism to now any support being racism, and the judge is really being political instead of juridical.
Yeah, Doctor, you make a good point that President Obama pushed a narrative. Then no one believed it, right? And then the media didn't call out President Obama about it. I do want to give you these new numbers coming in, Doctor, that there are at least 380 foreign-born individuals convicted in terror cases since 9/11. The numbers are coming from the Department of Justice, Homeland Security, State, coming from the Subcommittee on Immigration and so forth. Let me give you the numbers. 21 convicted are from Somalia, 20 from Yemen, 19 from Iraq, and so forth. So what do you make of all the data that's out there from the government, but then the Seattle judge weighs in as he did?
We are in a pathological amount of denial, and we see that it's a political issue instead of a national security issue. I mean, Professor Kurtzman from the University of North Carolina, who is no conservative, laid out that 23% of the numbers have families related to those 7 countries. So as you said, the numbers belie this denial, and it goes to a deeper amount of denial, which is that we're not dealing with a global jihad, that it's not Islamism. They keep these bizarre comparisons to other religious groups and non-Islamist terror. So we're getting a little bit of whiplash nationally because we finally have an administration that's dealing with the ideology, and we're in the first step. So what they're trying to do is make a huge amount of reaction from nothing initially, rather than deal with the problem and begin to work with this administration.
Yeah, it's about vetting on that ideology, not about banning Muslims, even though, you know, President Trump did tweet out the word ban, and I think other people now in his administration during the campaign talked about wrongly a ban on Muslims, right? So that was a mistake, right?
It really was. This
Okay.
is, if there's any fair criticism, it's the messaging, and especially the campaign messaging was a little off target, and now we're getting more accuracy, more advisors that are going to be clear, because if we don't get the messaging right, America's narrative, which is our best, most potent weapon against radical Islamism, changes, and we can't do that.
Yeah, it's often the values of freedom is the most powerful antidote to the ideology. And this just is coming in too, Doctor. We've got Iran removing a powerful missile, looks like from a launch pad in Tehran. It happened apparently within the past few days. Now, it's uncertain why Iran pulled the missile, and some suggest it could be technical problems. We don't know the answer to that. We're working on this story. But, Doctor, is this another victory for President Trump after putting Iran on notice and handing down new sanctions?
Well, what's interesting, Liz, is every year as their annual anniversary, this is the 38th anniversary of their Islamist revolution, they do this muscle flexing, if you will, with ship movements and war-type activity, and this is just another one of them. And the fact that they pulled it back shows that maybe General Flynn's notice has had an impact. Maybe the UN resolution that was put into place after they started to work on surface-to-air missiles, etc., that they shouldn't have been doing, is starting to actually be something they pay attention to. So I think, yes, as remember with the Reagan administration, he came in and all of a sudden hostages were released. And I think now we're finally seeing that appeasement was not working, and maybe a more forceful, clear administration on what we stand for and what we will not is actually having an impact on Iranian activity.
Dr. Zuhdi Jasser, you're always terrific. We love having you on. Please come back soon, okay?
Anytime, Liz. Thank you.
All right, with just